Yo man, I sprayed it out. I was looking at this expecting something orange like the previous one. And I push on it. Oh man, it's blue. Ooh, I wanted to show you. Yesterday it was so hot, so Sometimes I just make up numbers. Like, call 300 powder coaters a day, but not necessarily doing it alone. For 300 powder coaters a day, you've got the whole world to work with. When you're not doing a localized business, that's why I couldn't carry on with Iron Rainbow the way it was. That's why I had to switch it up. That's why I had to abandon my plans of running powder coating stores, actual coating shops. And my theory was, when I was 20 years old, I think, that I'm going to create a system that can be loaded onto a lorry, and that will be a powder coating shop. So that to distill it all down, distill the whole process and all the accompanying procedures down to a recipe that can be, recipe as in the process itself, and the machinery that's necessary for powder coating. And I was like, okay, I want to develop the system to a degree where it will fit into a lorry, and I can transport it around the world, and I can just send lorries from here, just boom, 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 and send out these powder coating shops, and they will all be Iron Rainbow facilities, offering the same quality of service, all interconnected by software, so that once there's enough of those, this was my theory, once there would be enough of those shops in a country, it could route customers, as in you'd go onto ironrainbow.com or whatever, and find your coater there, your powder coating shop that you're going to use. And I had to abandon this because I was like, man, offering a service is not entirely multiplicable, so you can't multiply it to infinity. Obviously there's no need for infinity, and it wouldn't just be a service. But anyways, I thought it would increase my attention requirement by a load if I was to be responsible for the service the customers get. And I'm still conflicted on this issue, whether I should be involved in engineering or architecting the service itself, because I called it user experience. When I designed the office so that they come in, there's an array of colors, and they could pick one, it's barcode, they could scan it, and they could add it to their coding, whatever, they'd pick their item. There was even a website, I'll try to put some pictures in if I can find them on the computer here, that so you could pick, and that was up and running on Iron Rainbow, ironrainbow.hu. You could pick your parts, motorcycle parts, it was all illustrated, car parts, rims, whatever, brake calipers, you'd click on it, choose the color, 4 different color categories, also abrasive media blasting as a precursor, and you would get I wrote a rap about it, it was like, colors with live price, click garage and you will find colors with live price update. I don't know, I can't remember the rest. Anyways, so that it would be all live, and you would know the answers in advance, the time it would take to do, how much it would cost, whatever. And I was like, man, it's not ideal, because ideally a system an actual software run system without humans should be responsible for all of this. So that would make it quantifiable to a degree where I would be satisfied with it, because as long as you rely on humans, you introduce an unknown error factor. So at least when you're working with machines, you can calculate your errors. But when you're working with humans, they can surprise you. I mean, machines can surprise you, but it's pretty binary. They either work or they don't work. I mean, it comes down to the same thing about humans, but when you've got like, to achieve what I was talking about, it would take like quite a few thousand powder coders to be working for me, in a sense. But I don't want that. I don't want that additional responsibility of employing a lot of people. This is one. And secondly, that is different from this ideology, so it doesn't follow this, but it's just as prevalent, maybe even more, that I don't want people to be doing this, man. It's not acceptable, I think. So it's like yesterday, I'm like, okay, let's make up numbers. Just make up numbers. What have we got here? Let's see what we come up with. What we came up with yesterday, it's me and myself. So let's go 300 powder coaters a day. And I was like, to do what? Okay. They would be retailers. 300 retailers would have to sell 300 units in 100 locations. Okay, so 300 units in 100 locations. So what does that give us? That gets us, if we make this much on the robot, like, this is all fiction, man. It's fiction, but you can write fiction like this and then try to make sense of it. Like, okay, that adds up to 2.4 billion euros. And now you need to take some marketing. Okay, let's say we invest this throughout the course of X amount of time. There's no, if you check here, there's no time factor involved. This was a simple equation. So it's 240 mil for marketing and 240 mil for manufacturing. So you see, it's very different whether you have 2.4 million to develop 300 something, or you have 240 million to develop 30,000 something, because economies of scale are with you. So that's why I ran it with such large numbers, because I was curious, huh? Could I actually do the manufacturing of 30,000 sets or units, as I call it here, with 240 mil? And I'm like, potentially, who knows? The goal of this isn't necessarily to be accurate of this type of math. I mean, there's no rule. This is just my opinion, man. I just like I enjoy doing it. I feel good while imagining stuff like this as a potential possibility. So I don't care if it turns out to be true, or if it's false, or if I'm off by a few percent, man. I don't care about that. It feels good to force yourself to think on a scale like this, as in forcing, not like, ooh, it wouldn't come naturally, but just to sit down. Okay, forcing might not be the right word, because it does come natural. Just to sit down and roll with it, not question yourself. Oh man, is that even possible? Could that be? Like, how will I do it? How, and get lost in all the nitty-gritty details, because I do that a lot of times. And designing a robot, micron up, like knowing it for every micron it is, like building it from ground up, like picking every part. It's what gap do we leave here? There's the motor and the actuator and all that. Like, I'm also interested in that, and I'm doing that. But it's good to zoom out, because I was thinking yesterday, why I started all this yesterday was I was thinking, man, what is my job? Lately I've been so caught up in building carbon fiber stuff, and not even building carbon fiber stuff, but being occupied with trying to figure out how to build certain carbon fiber things. And I was like, man, it just gives me a lot of dissatisfaction. So much failure. Failure is good. Often fail fast, and then you can progress from there. But it's just been constantly failing. Or if we use Edison's analogy, I think it was Edison or what, I don't know. That he said that I didn't fail. I just identified another method in which it doesn't work, or how it doesn't work. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. That you can sustain that for a certain amount of time, but after some time, you'll need some sense of accomplishment, or even like the potential of accomplishment, at least. And I thought to myself, like, I'm failing. I'm not in a negative way. This was all positive. Like, okay, if I'm doing something that makes me feel dissatisfied, then why do I do it? And then I can justify it to myself because it's necessary to achieve this and to be able to be talking about this as reality, not just plans. And I was like, okay, but once it's all complete, once the robot is built, Cloudliner, all these vehicles, all that it's built, building it requires a strategy. Distributing it also requires a strategy. And the distribution strategy, I feel more competence in that area than the building of the carbon fiber part of it, because that's been done a lot of times. But these are unique items, as in we make it unique. Each team can have an item or a group of items or a company or a service, and they make it unique. And I was like, the way we layer the fabric isn't unique, but it's us that's building these things with the message and the core concept of all governed by the same principle. Imagination rules. All paths clear to material realization. I put that down as the most fitting mission in my mind, that motivates me the most. That I'm working on stuff that allows people to get to the realization of what they want quicker. Why is it important? Because we're impatient. But why is it also important? Because the longer it takes, whether that's a production line, a distribution network, or a single machine time, it costs energy. Being alive for X amount of time costs energy. I'm not saying that these people are gonna die faster. I'm not saying it like that, but a process can also be alive. So while something is being coated, it costs energy. And if we lower that, if we didn't even talk about minimizing energy consumption or lowering it, or doing minus 10x on energy consumption, then even if we shorten the time that it takes for something to be ready, then that saves energy and motivates me. So I put these principles down and I just let my mind roll on this concept of, okay, 30,000 units need to be made. Obviously though, what's on this paper will expand into, and already is and has been expanding into, a vast Excel spreadsheet. That's just to illustrate it, not necessarily using Microsoft stuff, but just telling you that this is not all. This is the extreme outer surface, and that is like putting down a pin on a map. Like, that's where I want to go, that direction, and then figuring out the actual roads you take. You just need to keep yourself guided, and I want these principles to guide me. The monetary figures on the bottom are just to satisfy my engineering mind, as in it poses challenges. You lower your budget to manufacture something, it will make you think harder on how to actually design that thing to be manufacturable at that cost, and how far back the production line you have to go in order to achieve that. So how much can you outsource? How many machines you have to hold in-house? Maybe you even need to make the machines if you need so many of them that it would justify the cost savings. So it's exciting stuff. I just wanted to let you know what my mind was running on yesterday. I was very satisfied while writing this. Satisfied as in feeling a purpose. Because Bullix for building anything, Iron Rainbow for building everything, Infinity Spirit for making it. These things are just us. It's just human desires, and we have to give a name for them so that people can relate. But it's all just desires of how I want the world to be. If you're selling ice cream with passion, then maybe you just want people to be happy. It's your desire projected outwards to the world, and it takes the form of ice cream. And it delivers happiness to people, or entices happiness in them, whatever. And it's the same with building stuff for me. If I'm dialed into the purpose of why I'm doing it, then it's easy for me to overcome the obstacles, because if I'm not, then I will be focused on the obstacle itself when it arises. And I'll be like, oh man. But if I'm connected to a higher purpose, let's put it this way, connected to a higher purpose, but it's not higher than you. I'm not saying that it's higher than the individual, because that would be, like some people say, oh yeah, but it's for the greater good. It is for the greater good. But that, to me, is like making it sound like it's entirely for the greater good and not at all for the individual's pleasing. But it is. Like everything we do is initially to please ourselves. And then if it's good, if it's for the greater good, that's great. I just don't want to sound like the person who says that it's all sacrificial. My whole life is sacrificial because I do what I do for the greater good. Yes, I do what I do for the greater good. And because it gives me immense joy that I have the privilege of working on stuff like this, of solving problems that can affect such a large area of industry. And that might sound like I'm saying what I'm saying, that it's for the greater good, but no man, it's because I'm egotistic and I'm selfish and I love working on these problems, and it solves other people's problems, then it's fascinating to me, it's beautiful. If it doesn't, and I only get to imagine these things and work on them and enjoy it, and then I die, well then that's how it had to be. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm dumb. I don't mind because it hasn't happened yet, so I can't say whether I mind it or not. But all I'm rambling on about here is that you need to find yourself. Now you don't need to do anything, man. You can do whatever you want. I need to find myself anchor points to my mission, and when I do, it just unleashes a load of motivation. Yeah. Well, we could argue whether motivation is the right word here, but I think it's right because you understand this way what I'm talking about. That rush of excitement that comes to you when you realize what you're working on. And that happens occasionally to me, and I just wanted to share it with you. I just wanted to let you know. I just wanted to let you all into my head so that you know how it goes here from New Seged. Beautiful place we're living. Yo, weather's nice. It's not as ridiculously hot as it was yesterday and the day before. That storm last night, man, you know what we did? We pedal biked, we cycled to Sholties, half naked, just topless, jumped in the pool, watched the thunderstorm from there, and then we cycled back in the rain. It was nice. It made me feel alive. It was cold in the rain, but the pool was hot, and ooh, yo, it just made my blood flow. It felt great. What are we doing today? Working out, working in. Best combination.